One of the strongest arguments in support of the existence of a past but now deliberately obscured, ancient, advanced, now lost civilization are the impossibly enormous, erosion-resistant megaliths, many far over 1,000 tons in weight, seemingly effortlessly placed atop one another, as if the task was a simple one, tasks that appear to have required minimal effort to have once accomplished. Yet any explanation as to how these stones were moved, or any logical explanation as to how they achieved such task, remains elusive. Not only are there enormous, as yet unexplained megaliths all over ancient antiquity, the almost impossibly precise decoration and seemingly laser-cut accuracy found upon many of these ruins baffle all who gaze upon them or have the unthankful task of attempting to explain them. Nearly every aspect of these masterfully decorated stones, many clearly of a tremendous age, are indicative of an advanced, now lost, stone-cutting technology. The reality that these decorated temples, tombs, and pyramids are found littering the countless inexplicable ruins found all over the world are nearly always accompanied by megalithic blocks, somehow quarried and once brought to each site and seemingly, no matter the size, lifted aloft, forming incredible trilithons, or blocks placed into walls, perfectly placed with stunning precision. Another reason why stone ruins are such a great area for debate, and ultimately a field which presents so many proofs for an advanced antediluvian civilization, one who were once capable of achieving such feats, is the unexplainable nature of these puzzling, inexplicably large blocks. Unexplainable according to mainstream academic opinion, and are predictably still widely overlooked. Regardless of this, our own research has exposed countless of these blocks. The pregnant woman in Baalbek, for example, once argued as being left where it now lay due to the incline, and its tremendous, once argued impossible size, is now, however, understood to have been found to have been part of a wall, with blocks now excavated, discovered to have been of an even larger size. Without question, many undeniable proofs, in direct contradiction of the currently defended mainstream theory which pertains to this being our first and only ever societal development after simply appearing after an ice age, this being our only ever technologically advanced civilization ever to have existed. And although, again, as previously mentioned, our ancestors within known permitted history often re-inhabited these builds, they often left an archaeological footprint, not only allowing those in the so-called know a stooge to pin the construction on, allowing the site to simply be brushed under the proverbial rug, but then to simply overlook any logical explanation as to how they were utilized by said capable claimed culprits. This secrecy deprives us of what we all deserve as equally sentient beings to provide us with the truth. During our own investigative research, in an effort to identify just how many times civilization had possibly experienced cataclysm here on Earth, a question which arose during our studies surrounding Italy's incredible ancient stone walls, when during said research we thankfully stumbled across a very special part of this surviving relic. We found one of the ancient walls had two stages of ancient stonework in its makeup, one known as Cyclopean masonry. A substantial amount is now known regarding Cyclopean masonry, and has virtually been replicated in the modern era. However, the other style is known as polygonal masonry, a style we know nothing of. How they built these walls, or even how they created the randomly shaped blocks. It is a mystifying style of stoneworking, and yet another piece of undeniable proof of lost knowledge and thus of a lost civilization. If one watches our video regarding Bosda, not only is there enormous amounts of undeniable photographic evidence of advanced ancient tool marks, like a fingerprint cast in stone for millennia, these tool marks eventually enabling us to link the cave with countless ancient ruins the world over. Ultimately, we believe we have not only proven beyond doubt that these technologically advanced and once highly capable civilizations did exist, not only existed, but are still being blatantly denied and overlooked by funded individuals. Yet it is not only the feat of being able to cut the stones, but create structures from them of gargantuan sizes, all once perfectly refined with such delicacy, masterful cutting ability and finish, and to say such tasks were achieved with mere copper or similar metals is a lie so preposterous that even those providing explanation must know it's a lie, and this willingness to do so for funding we find highly compelling. Many of the most astonishing feats of ancient engineering are often avoided by historians, with many historical research materials absent their existence, due to their unexplainable origins. The reason for this should be obvious, for when one gazes upon such relics, instantly struck with wonder, a curiosity as to how something of such incredible size or skill could have been created by the individuals these sites are often claimed as the work of. This is one of the main theses of the channel, for not only are these sites largely ignored and thus overlooked regardless of being historically important structures, clear yet suppressed evidence that a civilization far more capable than any currently recorded within permitted timelines once flourished on Earth. Relics with a very different origin and indeed history. We believe that such structures were instead rediscovered by the many academically claimed builders, and this is often argued as being supported by empirical archaeological evidence. However, the archaeology merely proves inhabitation, not construction, with a record of construction never found within any of these academically claimed cultures' surviving records. Merely having re-inhabited such structures for strategic motivations, and in doing so, left their own archaeological footprint, subsequently concealing an unknown aspect of human history, one which came to an abrupt end, and one such site largely unknown by the greater world is known as the Herodium. What makes this structure so incredible is not the small arrangement of stone structures within the center of the build, but the earthwork itself, the entire site's footprint, and indeed the volume of earth utilized in the making of this ancient earthwork was of gigantic proportions. A seemingly pyramid-sized volume of earth used in the building of what can only be described as a respectably sized hill made by the hands of ancient man. Once one inspects this site from the air, its huge size becomes apparent, and the incredible feat this once was, an undertaking, if in fact constructed with primitive tools, would have been a task of unimaginable hardship. Thousands of tons of earth were at some point quarried and then transported to this spot, subsequently creating an incredible well-sheltered inhabitation with an intimidating incline on all sides. Many similar earthworks can be found throughout the United Kingdom, with the biggest pyramid in Europe known as Silbury Hill, mysteriously made completely of chalk. Yet this little-mentioned site dwarfs Silbury Hill by some measure. The question is, how old is Herodium? Who made it? How did they accomplish such a feat? It is, undoubtedly, highly compelling.
Beit Sherim is an ancient cemetery located within Galilee. Very close by is a natural cave. It had apparently fallen into disuse at the end of the 4th century and filled up partially with 4 or 5 feet of clay-like silt. In 1956, a bulldozer was taken in to clear the rubble, but what it would uncover can be seen as an enormous oupart, an out-of-place artifact. It turned out to be a large ancient rectangular slab made from an unknown material. Because of its size, measuring 6.5 by 11 feet long, 18 inches thick and weighing in at over 9 tons, it was not surprisingly left where it lay. With a perfectly level surface, its origins were a mystery, yet alas, at the time, not a pressing one. However, in 1963, members of a joint expedition of the Corning Museum of Glass and the University of Missouri would bring to light a curious reality. While surveying the region for possible remains of ancient glass factories, someone suggested that the Beit Sherim slab might have been made of glass. A suggestion initially perceived as a joke, Amazingly, chemical analysis was indeed carried out, confirming that this enormous and extremely ancient slab was indeed made of glass. It is therefore believed that the Bet Sherim slab is a huge piece of first-stage glass, meant to have been broken up and fashioned into objects somewhere else, that for some reason was abandoned right where it was made. In conclusion, several factors surrounding the existence of the slab are currently unexplainable. According to mainstream views surrounding the evolution of glassmaking, the production of such an enormous base material would have been simply impossible, requiring over 12 tons of raw materials, over 20 tons of furnace fuel, the maintaining of a temperature of over 1100 degrees centigrade for no less than 5 continuous days, finally producing a 9-ton slab of perfectly level, perfectly rectangular glass, clearly demonstrates the requirement of a highly advanced refinery with highly advanced technologies harnessed by a past civilization. Additionally, at the time of its discovery, only 2 other pieces of glass have ever been created that are larger. Both rest within the enormous telescopic mirrors of machines developed within the past century. It seems clear to us that the Beth Sherim slab is one of those rare gems that clearly demonstrates the past existence of a highly advanced, highly capable ancient civilization that once lived and was unfortunately lost here on Earth.
Hello, fellow YouTubers. Welcome back. There is an old adage which states, "A history unknown has a habit of repeating itself." As such, we will continue to provide reruns of hand-picked content repeating on MH2. A link can be found in the description. For instead of avoiding an inevitability, we continue to add reinforcement to the arguments in regards to whether man experienced this, and if so, how advanced were they, and most importantly, who? Passionately believing, with a continual mounting mountain of supporting anomalies and direct contradictions to mainstream paradigm. A historical correction, for to possibly avoid such an event again, we all must work unrelentingly to unravel the existence of these past mysteries of history, to know where we came from. The beliefs, technologies, age, and chronology of at least 4 lost civilizations we feel have been identified, yet alas, regardless of whether there were 4, more, or just one now lost civilization, the mystery remains regarding the sudden causes of their eventual demise. To expand our knowledge of not only world history, but to answer the question of the ages, where did we come from? Our work, our mission, our endeavor here on Mystery History is to expose smoking guns of conspiracy, the artifacts, ruins, megaliths, and other ancient high technologies which were all conveniently ignored by those who tow, or rather make a living from the funding of mainstream historical paradigms. The undeniable evidence of a once highly capable group or groups accomplished incredible feats of ancient architectural, engineering, advanced metallurgy, and so on. Baffling, often far too advanced, and as such, out-of-place artifacts, and the, as we perceive, overwhelming evidence for once existing yet now lost civilizations. Furthermore, the exposure of the additionally yet equally abundant evidence for these multiple groups having experienced some abrupt, sudden extinction, vanishing amidst their workings, seemingly in an instant, yet were, we feel, displayed incredible capability and were, at the time of these vanishing acts, in a position of apparent flourishment. Polygonal joinery, gigantic megalithic building blocks, singing 1,000-plus ton statues, specifically of Memnon, the pregnant woman of Lebanon. Also, north of the 1,000 tons mark, the east wing megaliths of Cheops. And Yangshan Quarry was also seemingly abandoned in an instant, had a stone that was busily being liberated from Earth's bedrock, is estimated to weigh over 16,000 tons. We suspect these huge stones and subsequent efforts in movement and placement were all deliberately motivated to not only show prowess and power, but also to leave a lasting reminder upon our planet, one to indicate their past existence. Footprints on coal, iron, and zinc pots found in or blown from multi-million-year-old strata, many found yet subsequently, quote, lost over the years, are all indications to support our posit here upon our channel. Many questions remain unanswered. It is a journey of discovery which we find highly compelling. Ollantaytambo, probably one of the most visually perplexing sites within Peru, claimed to be that of the Incas and at an altitude of 2,792 meters above sea level. Once one takes a good look at this place, it becomes near impossible to believe that the Incan civilization, with their access to such limited technologies, could have created such a place. During the Inca Empire, Ollantaytambo was the royal estate of Emperor Pachacuti. According to academia, when he conquered the region, he built the town and the ceremonial center within. It is such an impressive, perfectly placed strategic structure that at the time of the Spanish conquest, it served as a stronghold for Manco Inca Yupanqui, leader of the Inca resistance. However, as mentioned many times on our channel, how could a civilization create such astonishing architecture at such an early time within known history? How did they create some of these sites? What purpose could they have served? Some of the ruins that can be found in Peru, and in particular Ollantaytambo, you cannot help but wonder if, for example, the giant stairs carved into the hillside were intended for human use. Then why create them to such enormous scales? According to the history books, around the mid-15th century, the Incan Emperor Pachacuti conquered Ollantaytambo, including the surrounding region. All were incorporated into his personal estate. The emperor then claims to have rebuilt the town with sumptuous constructions and undertook extensive terracing and masterfully irrigating the Urubamba Valley, notably without any prior knowledge of these techniques known of. Were these giant ledge steps once used by giants, or possibly had a use similar to the ancient site known as Moray? Moray also claimed to be Incan. This mind-boggling site had an astonishing purpose. It seems the builders of this enormous structure were masters of horticulture. They had somehow figured out that by creating these raised ledges at particular angles to the seasonal winds and sun, using this to slowly acclimatize plants previously not suitable to that climate over many generations. Perhaps this is what Ollantaytambo was used for. Moray is little shared by academia. Indeed, its existence and one's function is difficult to explain with modern paradigms. And although not giants, we feel the site's once use was no less impressive. There are countless astonishing ruins upon the islands of Malta, many of which we have covered in the past, some in particular being of such an advanced nature that many a dedicated researcher has come away from said sites with a strong suspicion and awareness of stolen evidence, suggesting to them that whoever built these buildings must have had some form of assistance from someone or something with a far greater intellect than that of ancient or even modern man. One in particular, a structure with such mystifying properties. We have now covered it on 2 occasions here on our channel. However, upon the lesser-known Maltese island of Gozo stands the oldest yet no less astounding ruin of Malta, known as Gigantia. Thought to mean Giant's Tower, it is a megalithic temple complex of tremendous antiquity, with many concluding that it far predates even that of the Great Pyramid complex of Giza. A group of Neolithic stones still left in formation, which continue to give modern man a small glimpse into the astonishing past abilities of its builders. Thanks to the moderate, long-lasting temperate climes of the Mediterranean, Gigantea's megaliths still stand, giving us a chance to explore this remarkable site. And what must be considered the most intriguing factor surrounding its construction is the ancient folklore that can still be found swirling within the minds of the local Gotsians. This legend tells of an ancient giant, a female, who long after her supposed demise continued to be worshipped here, with many of the temple's elements now recognized as ceremonial sites, specifically oriented around the rites of female fertility. This folklore has also been intriguingly corroborated by a number of astute, honest researchers who have, over the years, successfully unearthed numerous figurines and statues at site, specifically associated with this ancient cult. According to local Gozitan folklore, a giantess who ate nothing but bread, beans, and honey once bore a child here, from a man selected from the common people. And with the child hanging from her shoulder, she built these temples to not only use as her abode, but to later be used as her burial location, and thus a place of worship. Yet, according to academia, who disregard such legends as having any historical accuracy, still concede that the effort to create such a site was undeniably a remarkable feat, especially when one considers that these monuments were constructed at a time even before the wheel had been introduced, and indeed predates the invention of metal tools. However, as they so fervently deny the possibility of past ancient giants, we feel they should consider the most remarkable characteristics of Gigantea being the scale of its still existing yet highly eroded megalithic blocks, with some still in situ, weighing far in excess of 10 tons, somehow transported from a faraway location and placed within the temple walls with such ease and skill that to deny the fact that even if not the work of an ancient giant, but the accomplishments of a past civilization, that they were clearly far greater than those currently claimed within the history books, and to deny such reality to us is a sign of negligence in their responsibility to convey to a learning population the truth of world history. Who built Gigantea? How did they build it, with such enormous stones, and with such an awareness of cardinal orientations? Was it, as the legend states, once built single-handedly by an ancient female giant? We find the evidence to suggest such highly compelling. Many of the sites we often select to cover can oftentimes be barely surviving relics from lost antiquities. However, we find ourselves in a fortunate age, where not only do we have the technology to study vast volumes of literature, all at the tap of a finger, but also enables those with similar interests, and possibly knowledge of a ruin unheard somewhere, to discuss such. And so far, it seems the ongoing debate has found a healthy home here on YouTube. Indeed, with a number of .com websites becoming more and more popular, this being an inevitable result of the exposure of the many relics we share, proving a vast amount of people share a similar opinion, and, like you and I, are seemingly not blind to the obvious, rather than blindly following the opinion fed to them by authority. However, the fact that the many as-mentioned ruins, no matter how robust, made from any known material, will all eventually return to nature, either through erosion or entropy, it is inevitable. We are in an age where not only do we possess such capabilities, but there are fortunately countless ruins once made of enormous, notoriously weather-resistant tough granite. Baffling and unexplainable stones, we simply cannot decode how they were used. And we feel this is perhaps the exact reason they were used in said ruins. Perhaps it was a statement to say, "We were here," and "we were advanced." The polygonal roadway on Cypress Hill, for example, the main subject of this video, is one such example of a ruin that, due to its apparent construction and courses, is clearly a close match to that of polygonal masonry, now catalogued all over the world. The opportunity to dismiss as geological, we feel, is becoming a stronger argument by the day. Cypress Hill's polygonal roadway reveals there are many incredible areas which are not as robust as others, far more susceptible to erosion. However, in the channel's opinion, archaeological excavation should be undertaken. It will prove or disprove the discovery of the formation's true origins, either artificial or an uncanny natural formation. Mystery history strongly suspects it is indeed an exposed section of a much larger still buried road which has laid preserved under the soil just waiting to be exposed. Who built the roadway on Cypress Hills? Do you feel confident in declaring it of artificial origins? Or do you perceive it as a geological formation? Feel free to let us know your opinion in the comments. I think adding personal opinions below will be an interesting exercise for all to see in regard to public opinion of the formation. Hopefully, one day localized digs will expose the reality once and for all regarding the road. Undoubtedly, a most curious, uncanny of rock formations, one which we find highly compelling.